What's up, folks? Casual Dad here, and we're going to take a minute to tackle the biggest winners from the current balance patch changes, the ones that changed for the Night Lord season last Monday. So, the quick and dirty obvious answer is Necrons. Necrons won hard. My god. Being the faction with the most regen, with the Corpse Lord as the cheapest warlord of all, who has that on top of regen, has some of the best Berserk cards already, has a bunch of Medicae to top off that regen. Yeah, they won really hard. Hilariously low on Poison, the second of the traits that was done, but true to form, with Necrons having 2 out of 3 of everything, they came out way on top. So this is a really good time to play Necrons, really good time to play Ulthakar, because he was just buffed, but a stupidly good time to play the Corpse Lord. He could have gone from being the worst warlord in the game, hands down, to being by potentially the best of all of them. So you can see right here, I've got Berserk, I've got Regen, Medicae, Berserk, Medicae, Taunt. The sheer volume of healing in this list is absurd. And to top that with the bonuses to Medicae and to Regen, and excuse me, the Regen is really high, the Medicae is really high, and to top that off with the bonuses to Berserk is just bonkers. This deck slaps. And I could play a game with that too, but I wanted to talk about a couple of games first as well. Space Marines, largely unaffected, but they have a couple regen cards that come out very well. Of the Space Marine decks, I do think that... where are you, buddy? We're going to pull this up. Azrael. I keep forgetting your name, buddy. Azrael comes out way on top here. Because he does a really good job with regen, has cards that really like regen, so the buff to regen is extremely powerful. Also very good with Berserk, and has the option to throw in some poison as well, but really leans on that. I think the biggest buff is potentially to regen overall, because you think about all of the abilities that rely on healing, and poison is extremely powerful now, but there still are not going to be that many poison cards running around, even with this balance patch change. So, you want to play with poison like I do, go nuts. But the biggest winner here is Regen, I think by a pretty good clip, which is good because it's been a kind of behind the curve trait for quite a while. So we looked at Necrons, quick touch on Space Marines. Any of your Space Marine warlords whose ability ramps over time, or of course Akran benefits as well, but he's hit back a little bit by that poison. But yeah, Azrael stands out as a really strong winner on this because he's a warlord who really wants cards to stay on the table for a long time to build up the buff. Likewise, Helbrecht also comes out on top here if you lean on your very durable cards and your regen cards. Pretty strong. Couple others. I did have a couple warlords that really stand out. I will say one of my first thoughts was Mozrog, right? That Mozrog was a hero that was going to do particularly well. He does benefit from the Berserk changes. There is one regen card in the Orc faction that does benefit. On the whole, I think he stays basically the same. But potentially stronger in some ways, but not enough to really make a difference. So it was one of my first thoughts and then quickly discarded that. Tyranids benefit hugely from the poison changes, particularly this one, because this one does get a huge benefit of having the ability already, and this isn't the deck I would run with this, already having an ability that does damage across the board. So just loading up the Flyrant with a lot of your poison cards and throwing in some of your Medicaes is a very strong deck now, much stronger than it has been, which is great. So one of the things I like about this balance patch is it is fairly subtle, but does a really terrific job of kind of shaking up the meta in significant ways, because you have several upgrades that are somewhat rare. Berserk, Regen, and Poison are all pretty uncommon traits across all of the factions, but they do open up some very significant build types for warlords. A couple that really stood out for me, the Avatar. This is one who's particularly good because, again, he really wants your cards to stay alive on the board, and you've got some very key regen cards that will benefit dramatically. And this guy has both Regen and Berserk, which is a combination that has gone through the roof because both traits were buffed dramatically. So yeah, this guy stocks way up, which leads me to... We're going to skip over that a little bit. I'm going to cover the 2 most improved warlords, hands down, in a minute here. But Trajan was my weakest of the Supreme Commanders, I think. Hadn't quite gotten a handle on him. But then I found this deck. So it's got the Medicae, it's got the Poison, it's got 2 Poison cards, and this one getting switched around. I am running her in a deck because she's finally at the point where she does the utility I want and is actually an effective piece, especially in a deck like Trajan, where she comes to the board buffed. significantly. So very, very strong piece. All the attack types plus poison. There is no way to avoid getting poisoned by this card. Also has decent hit points too. So, but you'll notice this leans on ranged because all of these Mechanicum cards have very strong regen. And there's also the big 65-point tank. The Regen Big Game Hunter tank is a really strong piece too, but still comes in too expensive for Trajan. But these guys have really, really good ranged attack stats and regen that will keep them alive longer and will keep them under the bubble of Trajan's damage buff longer. And then after that buff goes down, not only do you have regen keeping, potentially popping them back up to where they get that damage bonus again, especially with the double Medicae, but then also making sure that they take forever to take down between regen, Medicae, and the damage resistance buff from Trajan. On top of that, number 2, maybe number 1 most improved card in the game is this guy. Holy cow. Berserk and Regen whoop, through the roof. Likewise, along other Servants Warlords that were buffed dramatically, this change is also really, really good for Vol. Where are you, Vol? Vol. Because she already had the defensive ability, already was really good with Regen and Berserk, both of which have been buffed, so she has now correspondingly been buffed, which is awesome. However, the 2 Warlords who benefited the most dramatically, I think shouldn't have been beat me to this. He already did a Drukhari, a Drukhari deck build thing here. But obviously, spoilers. The probably number 1 most improved Warlord in the game, I'll give an honorable mention in a minute, is Rakarth. Rakarth already had a good, stable, good healing ability, very much like the Corpse Lord. His is a little bit more aggressive because you have to get kills or lose cards to go ahead and get it. But just look at the spread, right? You've got 3 cards that have the now heavily buffed poison that are also chaff cards that you can comfortably lose, but then have a lasting impact on the board because of the poison and the healing they give to your other cards. You get a 5-point filler, and then these 3 are bananas now. And I'll go in reverse order. So this is the one improved dramatically, but least. That an extra 16 wounds per turn plus what you already get from Rakarth, plus the very high hit points on this guy and the decent attack stats. This one is a total tar pit, which is great. And then this guy, I already mentioned the combination of Berserk and Regen is extremely powerful. And this is really good because he's epic. Getting that benefit to Regen is really, really good because he only tops out at level 2. But still, that is the old school max level, getting 12 wounds per turn, or at least rank 3. So extremely strong. And so, yeah, very good. Very, very good. And then to top that off, this thing is just dumb now. Oh my god. This level of Regen on top of this guy in a Rakarth deck, you throw in some Medicae here and it's just game over. You just, wow. It still is a melee-only card that can be countered pretty heavily, but yeah, this is a horrifying deck that is significantly more powerful than it ever has been before. Both because you've got 3 of these staple cards that now are more durable than ever, on top of 3 of these that do more damage than ever, while also charging your other cards. So like I'm super pumped to ladder like crazy with this one. And then our honorable mention for possibly most improved Warlord in the game right now is, of course, the Magus. Now, when I read the changes to the Magus, I was like, yeah, whatever, you still have to lose cards to do it. I haven't even changed this deck, and already look at this crazy thing. So I already got the Regen in there that's going to do really well. Got the other pieces, got this thing in here just to use the super heavy. Yeah, so his trade is just better, and then the other cards you can fill with him are just better, especially Mechanicum cards. So let's just build this real quick and really lean on the changed traits, right? So we're going to go ahead and search for Regeneration. Look at me using my filters. Look at that. See, I've grown as a person. Okay, so we'll take this out. We'll take this out. We'll take some of the cards that don't make sense here out. We'll go ahead and throw this guy in because we can. This guy in because he's dumb. This guy in because he's very Medicae. And then we'll just double Magus this up. He's 41. Oh, so close on the points. Now here for me, my... this guy is not particularly high level. I need 2 more copies of this guy to get that rank 3 Regen where I think he would really stand out as particularly good. He doesn't have the utility pieces you get from like Barrage or any of that. So this guy's a really strong piece to throw in here because has stock Regen, plus is cheap, so he's a great Trav card to lose, but then also will just crank up insane amounts of health with the Magus's upgraded ability. Now I still have 54. I'm going to drop this. What are we going to do here? Say cost. minimum of 60. Good, minimum 54. And then no trait. Apply. Looking just at the more expensive cards I could put in here. Of course, this guy's an obvious choice, just because he's a really strong piece. This guy, ooh, rank 3 Barrage, hello. Gets no benefit otherwise. And he's, let's see. Thinking. These are all really good with Magus decks, because Magus will just keep them alive longer than most other Warlords would. But you want some serious utility. So you want some Barrage. 94 in rank 1. 70 in rank 2. Or rank 3, actually, right here. Look at that. I don't think this guy competes with this guy, though. We're going to go ahead and... Oh, man, what do we do here? I like the big Game Hunter in this, and he has the defensive melee. I would probably want to rework this deck overall, because one of the big problems here is this doesn't do any damage. So we're going to remove that. We'll go ahead and... Oh, man, we'll throw this guy back in here. We'll throw a poison guy in here. Just to make sure we have a little bit of reliable game-wide damage. Also really good for feeding the Magus's ability. And then we'll tweak this a bit. So we still have 20. Let's see what we have at 27. What do we got? Nothing that really combos well. Now, shields are really, really strong in a Magus deck because it can bank up health, bonus health, before the shields go down. This is definitely a ranged-heavy deck. This guy still offers some of the extra defense. What do we have at 50? Huh. At 45, we've got her. That'll be fun. And I like the Magus because he does so much healing. He's got Regen and Medicae to top off the entire board, but then his attack stats suck. I need at least one more level, probably 3 more levels before this guy becomes really good. And then he's so much weaker in a Magus deck than he is in any of the other ones because all of the other Servants, Warlords, except Vol, have some kind of offensive boost, where he does not. So I don't know what else I would put in here. You know, this is really leaning on that. I'm going to take this guy out and we'll do 27. And then we'll probably end up putting this guy in here. Mine's low level, but he's got pretty great attack stats and really is kind of in there just as a chaff extra ranged card. But yeah, so this works out well. We've got the double regen, endless to go ahead and supercharge your other stuff. That's a total of 60 health you'll give to your other cards if you put them in a dangerous spot, plus Medicae. And then regen, barrage. This is just a card you want to keep alive. This doesn't have any taunt or target acquired, both utility pieces I usually have. So I think Rakarth still beats Magus in terms of most improved list or deck in this, or Warlord, excuse me, deck in the current balance pass, but so Rakarth wins just because the body cards you could put with him. I do think that there's definitely something there to the Magus, but I'm not really seeing it yet. And it feels like it's got to be different somewhere. You could really lean on the Mechanicum stuff. I'm probably missing a key card or two here that would really make the difference. But I do really like just having this guy in here because of his buffs this season. This one is a staple. It's one of the single best Servants of the Emperor ranged cards in the game, especially at that price point, having Barrage. It's got such higher Barrage attack than this guy. Level 3 versus level 8. This one is so much more powerful. Yeah. So yeah, I believe that is what we're looking at. So let's take a look at the other Warlords real quick, just to go through and check myself and make sure that I'm catching everyone. So yeah, so the Warlords that really benefit for the most are the ones that want to keep cards on the table long term, who also have a lot of the key traits. So Regen, Berserk, and or Poison. So again, Necrons head and shoulders ahead of the pack because of the sheer volume of Regen and Berserk they have already on top of a lot of Medicae and then also a lot of good base stats. So Necrons are just, this is the season of Necrons. However, they have a close second in Eldar. Really strong season for Eldari. And a pretty strong season for Servants just because of all that regen. I think Trajan is dramatically improved overnight here. Magus, of course, doesn't gain a whole lot. He does gain a little bit. So this is a nice buff to the Magus who's going to get a rework at some point. So Magus is better because he was already relying on healing his cards by default, which now they will heal more if they have regen. But most of the best cards in a Magus deck don't really synergize with that well. Whereas Trajan they do. You can put cards in there that synergize with his abilities better than Call's. So, and I kept saying Magus, I meant Call. Belisarius Call and all of that in terms of the Supreme Commander. Hopefully that was clear. Avatar's doing really well because you have a lot of extremely sticky cards where before he could really lose a lot. Tyranids are in good shape because they can really do a lot of the poison. They have some regen. Let's actually take a look at that. They have some regen and they have some really, really good Berserk, which is good. So let's go ahead and look for a couple of these traits. Just kind of look through the cards real quick because Tyranids are one of my favorite factions. I want to make sure not to sell them short. Berserk. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you could really lean on a Berserk. We just saw Gosar get a giant points cut. So Gosar plus all of your Berserk cards, very strong because the Berserk combos with the trait. So you're just cranking these up and he's cheaper. So you may actually be able to fit all these in here. In terms of Warlords, Ulthakar is better. But I mean, these guys both have. Mozrog does benefit from the buff to Berserk. So that is good. But yeah. The deck falls enough further short that I wouldn't worry about that too much. So Gosar plus as many of these as you can do is very good. And then let's also look at Poison. And of course, this isn't going to show the cards that I don't have. So apologies for that. I would say also stocks way up on the Tervigon. This is something I mentioned when I was talking about the balance patch notes. The Tervigon is a warlord that's fallen behind quite a bit. All of these have primary trait Poison. One of them is a 6-point card, easy to lose. The only thing that holds these back, I think, and also there's one missing, and that's going to be the Magus. Magus, not Magos, Magus. And her Poison, no, Poison is a primary trait, yeah. Very good. The only thing that holds these back is they're all mixed attack types. High melee, all melee, both ranged and melee, but it has no hit points, so it doesn't matter. And then this guy's very heavily ranged. This thing, though, Barrage Poison. Barrage Poison with the buff to Poison. This thing is off the charts. Especially because it can combo with the Tervigon and have basically infinite bodyguards. So that's kind of one of the things I'm really going to play around with this season, because I've wanted to use both that and my Tervigon quite a bit. And it fell a little bit short in the previous season, mostly because my Hierophant is only level 3. But that's where it just hit Poison. And rank 1 Poison is now scary. Where before it would have been 4 wounds per turn. 4. Now it is 10. 10. Oof. Very good. Plus whatever you're doing with the Barrage, plus whatever else you're doing with your attacking cards. So, very strong. And let's go ahead and look at the third trait. We're looking at, that was Berserk and Poison. Now we're looking at Regeneration. I just want to make sure to give Tyranid some extra attention here. Oh, yeah. Oh man, this thing has regen as a secondary trait. All right, nice. Just got level 2 of that from the campaign over the weekend. Feel very happy about that. Obviously not going to take it because it is level 2. Likewise, this guy is way too expensive to justify yet at level 2. But does have regen, and that definitely benefits him a lot more than it would some of the other cards. Look at that level 2, 67 melee on an 80-point chassis. Got to get this sucker up to level 8 before he really starts doing some work. But then, boy, does he do some work. So, very strong piece. Eventually, we'll get there. These two, though, have always been staple of my decks. They're kind of surprise pieces where their stats are phenomenal. This one hit points, this one melee damage. Their stats have always been really strong, and this one has both ranged and melee damage. So it's a very good tar pit piece. And with regen buffed, excellent. Tyranids do struggle a little bit with durability, so this buff across the board for them is nice. And you can mix and match these, right? So it's probably really good to mix some regen, some Medicae, some Berserk, and then some Poison in there, just to have all the utility pieces. And Tyranids are one of the few factions that has at least a couple options in every single one of those categories, which makes them very flexible here. They don't synergize particularly well together, which is an issue, but that's something that you can kind of build around. So those are the main traits. That is kind of the main takeaways of the season, and I don't think I've fully expressed how excited I am to get in there and tinker with stuff in this season. This is my happy place. When there's a complete shakeup of the entire meta and everything goes crazy, yeah, this is where I want to be. So just to kind of talk about the things that I am going to try to make work. Obviously, I already talked about Tervigon. Talked about Rakarth a bit, that I want to ladder up like crazy. I probably won't play Necrons because while they're dramatically buffed, they haven't fundamentally changed. They're not going to lean heavily in Poison because they don't have it. And the Berserk cards were already kind of staples of the faction anyway. So yeah, I may play them here and there, but I'm just not terribly interested in playing them too much. So let me know how your games go with Necrons. Tyranids I'm going to play a bunch, but I am going to try Ranged Chaos this season. I want to bust out Huron. I want to bust out that dramatically cheaper Helldrake. We'll see how it goes. Because this guy, I've never gotten him to work. He's got such potential upside. Oh, I got my Brass Scorpion in there. It just never goes. So I am going to try him, and we'll see if I can pull off the Ranged Chaos. I'll let you know how it goes. And that's it. Cheers. Until next time.